Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Ann Olson. I'm an experience manager here at Packpack, working with our faculty to make sure that they have the most successful online discussion experience. And I am so excited to introduce Jenel Cavazos with us today to walk through her approach to building community in an online environment, her tips and tricks, trials and tribulations, all of that good stuff that will really help understand what it's like in her classroom and all of the successes that she's had, both in face-to-face classes, but also online, which was a full experience that she had before being forced online this term. But I will kick it over to Jenel as soon as possible so that we can get to the nitty-gritty details. But first, I wanted to just kind of lay out the technology that we have today. So before we get started, to walk you through a little bit of the rules of the road, use the chat on the left-hand side to connect with any other attendees or to share out any questions that you might have for Jenel. You can use the private to presenters box to report any technical issues. Our team will reach out, get you squared away. And you can use the second icon at the top of your screen right there to ask any questions. So you can either put a question in the chat or submit it to Jenel so that she can see it and interact with it and get you a quick answer. The agenda for today is I'll do a quick little overview on just what is Packpack, what is this tool, and then we will immediately hand it over to Jenel to dive into how she does build an incredibly effective community online. And then an open Q&A, so keep those questions coming. So really quickly before we do get started, I wanted to lay out just a little bit of what Packpack is. Packpack scales effective discussion to enable curious and motivated learning in any class size through AI-supported online discussion. So this is an AI online discussion platform that's firmly rooted in student inquiry. The way that Packpack works is that students are actually the ones driving the questions and the inquiry in the class discussion. And we use, and it's used weekly to build a practice of developing this critical thinking and really just exercising this tool. That level of consistency of engagement is what really does help drive a little bit of that online community feeling. A few of the tools that we use to do this first is our Packpack Digital TA. So this provides instant and consistent feedback for your students throughout the entirety of their engagement process. How the post gets submitted is that they will write, and while the students are writing, the feedback will appear on the screen next to them, coaching them and nudging them in the right directions. The AI will then review those posts to make sure that it's not violating any community guidelines. If it does, if it's been plagiarized, if it's been copied from another student, there's any profanity, anything that does not really advance the discussion, it'll be moderated. The student will receive a coaching email, and then they'll be prompted to revise their work. And the last tool that I wanted to highlight is just our feed forward. This tool gives all instructors just a suite of tools that help you massively scale the impact of your feedback. Jenel will definitely cover a lot more of the details of this with just the sheer size and volume of the students in her class. But the way that this feed forward tool works is that the AI actually goes ahead and suggests top posts weekly for the instructor to review. You can select those posts that are most meaningful to you and students, give them some praising feedback, and then the students will get sent that email directly every single week to just make the workload a little bit lighter on you all. And with that, I wanted to kick it on over to Jenel so she can introduce herself, and I will get out of your hair.
Awesome. Okay. Hi. So my name is Jenel Cavazos, and I am an associate professor at the University of Oklahoma. My job there is as the introductory psychology coordinator. I'm a master teacher there, and that means that I teach two really large sections of intro psych. Both have about 500 students each section, and then I help to run the curriculum for the program as a whole. And as well as helping to answer, teaching related pedagogy questions, things like that throughout the year. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is, in this new environment we have, what it means to be building an online community. So a lot of people are talking right now, students and faculty, about how isolated they feel and how lonely they feel. And so, that's one of the reasons that Packpack wanted to do this particular topic. And I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about some considerations. Anytime you're thinking about, how to implement a program, what technology to use, things like that. I do a lot of ed tech stuff at the University of Oklahoma. It's kind of a hobby, but I start with this anytime I do this because there's so many differences between us and what our target audience is and what our goals are that I think it's really important to take that into consideration first. So, what is your class size? What's your group size? With my students, there's a whole lot I can't do because I have 500 of them. With a class of 20, there's a lot of options that I don't have. So, when you're looking at building an online community, how big is the community? That's the first thing you got to know. Second of all, what are your goals for connection? In other words, what are you trying to get out of this? Are you looking for just building a sense of having people around, having shared interests, having shared learning? Or are you looking for faculty development? Are you looking for checking in on your students, making sure they're okay? What does it mean when you say building a community? And then is there anything you can build on as far as shared hobbies or shared interests? If you're looking primarily for faculty development, clearly you have a common interest already. You're a faculty. But as far as with students, many times things like where did you grow up? Do you have pets or not? That's a huge one. If you can get them talking about their pets, even showing their pets on a webcam, that's the kind of thing that builds camaraderie and community. So, what kind of hobbies do you have in common? And the last thing that I like to ask about is how comfortable are you with self disclosure? Are you one who, generally keeps to yourself as far as not wanting to tell a lot of details about yourself, not wanting to put yourself out there, maybe see your family, maybe do that kind of stuff? Or are you really comfortable opening up everything and letting students or other faculty, kind of whoever you're building that community with, are you okay with letting them in and letting them see, who you really are and what you're really going through? Again, none of these questions are right or wrong. It's just something to consider before figuring out or thinking about how to implement various tools that may or may not work for you. So as far as classes go, as far as, again, building a community online for students, if your classes are relatively small, I really suggest creating a GroupMe. Oh, sorry, I hit that. Creating a GroupMe if you can. I do this with my TAs. I have 18 TAs, and we have a GroupMe set up where we communicate constantly. So GroupMe is just a texting app. Basically, it allows group texting where you can communicate really quickly with people. You can create polls, you can share documents. Most of my TAs are sharing memes, they're sharing GIFs, they're sharing images. All that kind of stuff is happening all the time. And the advantage is that because it's like texting, you get the entire group communicating at once. So I found that in this move online, we haven't really missed a beat as far as community goes with my group of TAs because we were used to already talking online in that modality, and they've continued to do that. So we've been able to check in with each other. We've been able to support each other, whether it's somebody is worried about something or I'm really bored, give me a new recipe or a show to watch. We talk about everything. And that's really, really nice to have that small sense of community. Another thing you might try to do if you do want to build some sort of community around a sort of a asynchronous sort of a thing. So, for example, in my class, because so many, very difficult to do a synchronous class where I have everyone log in at the same time and do a class. That's a great option if you can. With mine, what I choose to do instead is some sort of theme meetups. So, for example, if they can't, for example, all log in at one time, maybe they could post a 30-second video introducing their pet or introduce their favorite food or wearing pajamas that day when they do a presentation. Just something to, make it a little bit more fun for them, a little more lively for us too. And then we're building again that sense of community, that we're in this together, that we're all doing this, cool, crazy, fun thing. And then you can have them, ask some questions. You can have them say, here's what I want to try next, or here's what I think is a good idea. The idea of having a discussion board, I think, is really important. I'm doing this right now where students can ask questions of our graduate assistants. So again, it's another way to create community, because they have the ability to upvote questions. They can answer each other's questions. This is done, and what's interesting is that a lot of people think, well, of course, we're using Packpack to facilitate discussions, but I have a separate discussion board for just questions, because Packpack is supposed to be about facilitating discussions about content, not things like, when is the next test, or how are we going to do this thing online. What the discussion board is for. So I have a separate discussion board for all of that kind of stuff. And that's checked daily by me or one of our graduate students, and they know that. So they can see that, they can see those questions, they can upvote those questions. I think other great ways to build, again, a sense of community with students is to have them look ahead. So ideas like advice for future semesters, having them maybe send out, on Twitter, say, hey, two pieces of advice for future semesters. You can hashtag it, and extra credit for that, right? It gets them thinking about the class. It gets them thinking about what they would tell future classes. And then it, again, sense of community around, a Twitter platform, for example. Or you can have them write a list of favorite topics that they've covered. They can post that in a discussion board. They can use Flipgrid. There's a number of different tech tools that you can use in order to record and post some of those things. So there's a ton of ways that you can get students to sort of help still feel like they're a part of a class community, even while we're online. As far as taking care of each other, this is something that I think is so crucial right now, because we're all facing this new environment. And I think it's really, really important for people to see us as vulnerable. And again, whether that's your students, whether that's your peers, whether that's your coworkers, we're all feeling something right now. Some of us have it way easier than others. Some are just bored. Others have people in their families who are sick, worried about losing their jobs, things like that. And I think that sharing that we all feel some of that helps. I've had students tell me that, telling them that they have permission to feel like this is really, really important. Just saying, it's okay if you feel lost. It's okay if you feel frantic right now. It's okay if you feel stressed and scared. That is so validating for them to know that they're the only one. And I make sure to tell them what I'm going through also. Again, we don't have meetings that all happen at the same time. So I record videos, 5 minutes of updates every week. And literally, here's what I'm doing. Yesterday, I was working on sanding my patio. So I had like my hair in a ponytail, and I was like, this is why I look like this. We're outside, we're sanding. Here's why. And I shared with them that my stepmom was just diagnosed with the COVID virus, and that she's home and she's recovering and she's doing well, but that, it's really kind of hitting close to home. So I like talking about those kinds of issues, because I want to know that they're not alone, that we're all human, and that we're all facing this together. I think any reassurance that you can help give them as far as how to navigate this class environment, how to navigate, talking to you guys about not feeling isolated and not feeling alone, what they do to stay engaged and stay in contact. Also, the simple navigation of a lot of our schools have gone to pass-fail grading. I know ours has. So explaining that to them, a lot of them do not have any idea what that means. So having those kinds of conversations, again, I ask them to put those in messages to me so they can post it on the discussion board, they can send it in an email, and I will create a video explaining those things. Again, they get to see my face, they get to hear my voice. That's what they're used to, and at least still have some contact and some engagement with them. Also, anytime you can build a stronger peer network, I've been absolutely amazed at the sheer number of resources that have come out with companies, like Packpack and many others who've said, here, use our platform. It's free. We'll get you in and we'll teach you how to use it. And then online, there's a ton of networks. There's so many different avenues of groups that have popped up for the transition online, Facebook groups, Twitter communities, where they're just saying, here's what I do, take my plan, adapt it however you can. And everyone is looking to help each other through this. And it's really an awesome thing to see. So there are tons of communities already out there. You don't have to build your own. If you're looking for a peer network, just dive in and ask a question. And there's 1,000 people who will jump in. Hey, here's how I do it. Here's what you might consider to help. I've listed a couple on here. Twitter, Academic Chatter is great. If you want to follow them, you'll find a whole bunch of other people to follow from there. And on Facebook, there's a group called the Online Learning Collective. It started out as 20 or 30 professors just kind of saying, hey, what are you doing? And now all of a sudden it's like 10,000 people. And you can post a question or a comment, share something that a student said, and get other people's perspectives. And it's a really great way to stay engaged and, again, not feel so isolated. So that's important for us. It's important for our students. It's important for everybody to know that there's a window out there and that there is going to be an end to this. But making that our students and ourselves can make it through that is really, really important. So again, this is just a really quick overview of some of the things that we do in order to foster this community really, really quick in sort of an emergency setting. So again, really quick overview. We're here open for questions, comments, anything from here.
Yes, we had a quick question already submitted by Michael Swanson. Do you have any? Yeah, perfect.
Suggestions for ways to build a sense of community for classes that will begin online. Yeah, so what's fortunate about these, because that's the way, so we've done all of our summer classes are moved online now. The nice part of this is that they know what they're getting into from the beginning. And I hear that a lot. My students are saying, I didn't sign up for this. Well, the nice part of the online classes is that they actually did. So one of the things I do with the online classes, we use Packpack pretty exclusively to build that sense of online community. So I require the students to do posts every week in that platform, and that lets them talk to each other. So they have to do, in my class, they have to do 2 questions and 4 responses each week because it's a big part of their grade, that communication. And so by interacting with each other, by answering each other's questions and giving opinions, one of the things I love about the platform itself is that they are able to actually go back and forth with each other, so they can say this is a supporting point or this is a refuting point, and they can say, like, I don't agree with you because, and then the next person can come along and say, okay, but here's this point. And so it gives a richer sense of community because, again, they're able to actually have that interaction instead of just everybody playing, good question, that's interesting, I agree, I feel that way too. Nobody's to read that all day. They just don't want to do it. Having those, having that more interesting interaction is a really good way to do in online classes.
That was a great question. And similarly, kind of branch off the same tree, have you noticed that students do better online when they have a discussion community?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting, I actually had all of the discussion stuff going beforehand. So before we went online, my classes were already doing this, but that's a function of how big they are. And, and again, in a room of 500, we don't get much discussion. So I was already having them do questions each week in Packpack so that they could have the smaller team discussions outside of class. What I've done since moving online is I've increased their requirement for that, because now, of course, they don't have the in-class participation requirement. So I sort of moved that participation requirement into doing that now. And yeah, it's been tremendous. Some of my TAs do a lot of interacting as well within that. And questions. Of course, I teach psychology. So questions about psychology of being quarantined. What does this do to people long term? What does this do to family? How does this help our learning? Does it hurt our learning? Does it hurt? What are some of the implications of pass fail grading? Like, they're asking a lot of those questions that I just talked to you about. And what's great about it is that then, their peers are getting in and saying, yeah, I was really worried about that too. Here's what's happening in my life. I've had people talking about the fact that they're now at home and their parents don't have any idea why they're on the computer all day. They think they're playing games. They don't understand. And how do we deal with that? And other people have been chiming in saying, like, well, here's what I did that helped my mom understand. And, there's a whole bunch that can be said for peers answering other peers instead of just, sort of me answering all the questions. And I think that's what the decision does. It's discussion. That's hard to accomplish, but it can be done.
That was awesome. And a question from Natalie. Many of my students have limited or little access and expertise in online learning. How can discussion and collaboration help?
That's such a hard one right now, because we're asking them to use to a system that, again, they did not sign for this. And pressure in them too, like a whole bunch of, of all these videos going around. It's made the perfect. You figure out how to change it back. If you guys haven't seen that one, go look it up. It's and so there's really, really funny things that we can learn together. But it is definitely a challenge for students who aren't good at it. So one of the things I think is really important is to be flexible when it comes to due dates, when it comes to how much they can manage. So for all of my class discussions are due on Monday nights. I really strongly encourage them to be on there. And a lot of them are, because, again, it's something new, it's people to talk to, but they don't have to be. And that way, for example, on Tuesday and their connectivity is poor, they can try again at some other point in time. They don't have to have any sophisticated sort of technology, and do it pretty easily. It's very, very intuitive stuff that, at least that I use. And so I think that thinking about how does this look from the student side is really useful. One thing that I tend to do a lot of is using the students as a sounding board, whether that is that you have a TA that you can, recruit for this purpose, or just a really good student that seems interested and engaging and to help. Ask them, what do you think of this? Was this hard to grasp? When you first logged in, what did you think at first? Were you overwhelmed? Did it freak you out? Or were you like, yeah, I got this? How would you help other students navigate if you were in my position? What instructions would you give them? Those are the kinds of things that are really crucial to, again, have students helping other students, because we don't see what they see, and we don't process information the same way. So having a student sort of go through that first and say, here's how it appeared to me and here's what I would do, is super, super helpful.
And then one final question, which is just, what are the non-negotiables for you in online classes? Like, what's your power tool set of the things that no matter what, you always will have as a portion of online class?
Oh, well, I mean, so I'm trying to still teach them, I haven't given up on the semester. I think some professors have, they've just sort of said we're done. And some students have, and I understand that. But I feel like I still have an obligation to, number one, provide the content that I was hired to provide and that the students sought out by enrolling. I think that, we've got majors that are going to need this content at some point later. And for many students, I've actually heard that they don't want us to give up. They tell me this is the one thing that keeps me going, that having something that's due, having a schedule, remembering what day of the week it is because they have something due. All that stuff is important. And so I think that that it's a great question, paring it down to what is super important in this class. What do they really need to know? For me, of course, there's some key psychology content that I think is crucial that they'll continue to have, but it's knowing that I'm still here. I think that's the one thing that no matter what, even if we didn't have any more psych content, I would still post a video every week and say, hey, how's it going? Here's my kids. Here's my dog. Here's what's happening. Because they've spent so much time with me already. And, if they don't like me and they don't want to be a part of it, fine, don't watch. But those that do, I want them to know that I'm still there for them and that I haven't disappeared just because we moved behind a computer screen. I'm still the same person. They're still the same people. And I'm here to help and do what they want me to do as much as I can. So that would be my non-negotiable, just to let them know that, we're still on their team. We still want to see them succeed. We still want to see them thrive, even in this environment, as best as they can with the challenges that we're all dealing with. And yeah, and we're not going to give up on them.
I love that. That's, yeah, leading it with empathy more than
Absolutely.
anything else. So those were the questions that we had. If anyone does have any other thoughts or questions to share with Jenel before we let her go back to all of her kids and her amazing dog, thank you all so much for just your attention today, your attendance, your incredible questions. Obviously, huge thanks to Jenel for sharing that with us. I know I genuinely did learn a little bit more just about the unbelievable importance of leading with empathy, especially right now for students. So thank you so much for that. We will send out a recording of this webinar right afterwards, but if anyone does have any other questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a really wonderful rest of your day and stay safe.
Thank you.